Welcome. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. Like Matt said, I have been in the marketing space here in Utah since I want to say 2012-ish. And I travel quite a bit, at least in the United States, into these different little e-com hubs in Austin, Denver, LA, of course, Miami. Uh, Scottsdale's kind of getting a little bit there too. And I'm not just being biased. There's something about Utah that is incredibly just different. In fact, I was just talking to Steve, wherever he is from Life Recovery. He was saying the same thing. Like, there's just something different here, whether it's swig or crumble cookie, the what we're consuming. I don't know, but there's something really cool happening. So I love being a part of these communities. Love being a part of helping out Subscription Prescription and Matt Holman. What's really cool about Matt is that I have discovered. So I've been in the agency space for like 6-ish years. And at first we start agencies because we realize we can make a lot more money doing it on our own, right? It's a money play. It's like, oh God, I can make a lot more than if I was working at the brand. And then what happens for some people, they just keep going down that route and they're doing anything and everything to get as much clients, to make as much money as humanly possible. They don't care about churn or anything like that. But then other people will hit a moment in time where they actually change somebody's business, and you see the ripple effect of a business changing, because then you see their employees' lives changing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you start to realize that, hey, if I chase money for other people and success for other people, then it will make me successful. And what I love about Matt is he is one of those agencies. They're few and far between. So really, really cool person. We bring him and his team into, I feel like 80% of what we do anytime we're working with, or 80 or 90% of what we're doing anytime we're working with a subscription-based brand. So today I am going to talk about, I want to talk about the math behind subscriptions. Before I do that, let me just get this is not going to be a sales pitch for me and my agency. I don't care if you work with us. I just care that you take this information and it betters your world. So, but I have to give you like a minute or two spiel so you can understand if you want to get back to work and not pay attention to me, or if you want to pay attention to me. So, like I said, I've been in the space for like 14-ish years. Got my first introduction into e-commerce happened in 2016. A good friend of mine and I, we launched a company here in Utah called Asher Golf, which is a golf apparel business. And our whole goal in the golf apparel space was we wanted to do what Stance Socks did for socks, but for the golf glove. So back in the day, I can't remember when Stance Socks started, 2012 or something like that, probably. They were taking on this like mundane white, black khaki sock and saying, hey, let's make the sock self-expressive. And we said, hey, listen, 95% of golfers wear a white golf glove. The other 5% wear a black golf glove. How boring is that? Like, what if we turned it into, a sense of self-expression? And so we launched Asher Golf. Within the first 18 months, we did 7 figures, which is now an 8-figure business, still thriving and growing. And now it's outside of golf gloves. It's now apparel as well. Shortly after that, a couple years into it, I had a friend of mine who was running a business called Fawn Design, which was a Utah darling business. And they had been growing 100% year over year. And 2018 was looking to be the first year that they weren't going to grow. And they were like, what is going on? And for those of you who've been in business long enough, I'm going to talk about some of the ebbs and flows of e-com that have happened throughout the years. But this is when like things started to get harder in e-com. And so I got the chance to go to step away from this, like start a brand, grow it, to enter a brand that has proven success, made millions and billions of dollars, and then try to help them get their way out of a rut, which was really fun, able to do. And recently they just sold, which is really cool. And then in 2020, started our agency. So got a lot of people who just started coming to me and just saying, hey, how are you doing this over at Asher? How did you do this at Fawn Design? Can you point me in the direction? Can you help us out? We started consulting for people, and very, very quickly, Bestie Media turned from just let's help you just figure out what your problems are, to people then saying, hey, we now need a team to execute on this. Like, we can't just do this on our own. Like, this is nice, but we can't do it on our own. So now what Bestie Media is today is we are a full-fledged performance marketing agency that starts with profitability growth modeling. So we've kind of, we both are marketers that have now turned, like, we're mega finance people. We love the finance side of business and marketing, because so many brands operate not so profitable. And so we do the strategy there. We actually execute. We run paid ads from Meta to Google to YouTube, TikTok, whatever. And then we operate and manage the entire creative pipeline for your ads. We have a community of over 400 UGC creators, and so we do a lot on the creative side. So that's it. My spiel is done. My pitch is done. Let's talk marketing. You can decide if you want to listen now. So today's conversation is going to be kind of fourfold. First, I just need to set the stage with, like, where was marketing in the heyday, and where have we gotten to today? I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's so challenging for you to scale on ad platforms, because let's be honest, majority of your new traffic is coming from ads. Raise your hand. Come on. Yeah. Okay. We're going to actually get into the profitability, like the math, which sounds boring, but I promise it isn't. So just stay with me. And then I'm going to show you some real brand examples to actually show you how this works and how this is mapped out for people. I got really excited about transitions, and now I have no more transitions animations. So this is the blank slide. These are how they're going to be. So golden era. Who started their business before 2018? One? Okay. All right. Well, the golden era it was never harder to start a business in this time, right? So hard to find a manufacturer at the time. Like, you felt like your brother-in-law needed to serve a Mormon mission and speak Mandarin in order to figure out how to get manufacturing somewhere, right? And then it was never easier to stand out, right? Right? You could post pictures. Organic reach was 100% free at the time. It felt like you'd post something and it would pop up in your followers' feeds. Your ROAS was, Donald, was your ROAS massive back then? You know? It's crazy, right? It was absolutely crazy. I remember, so Asher, when I was running ads at Asher, I remember it was like March of 2016. I created 2 ads. I had 0 design experience. I created 2 probably very crummy ads. I put $50 a day to it, and we were making about $100 a day, okay, to launch. And it was friends and family. And I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning. I'm like, all right, let me check out my Meta. Let's see what happened here, you know? I spent $50 and I made $500. I was like, dang, I'm good at marketing, you know? And then the next day I made like $480. It's like, I'm good, you know? And I let it run for like 3 weeks, and it was between $400 and $600 a day in attributed revenue. And I'm just like on cloud 9, like, this is crazy. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to raise it to $100. See what happens here. So I raised it to $100, and now I'm making like $800, $900. And I let those ads run for like 45 days. I never changed out 2 ads. Can you imagine doing that today? You know, like, that's non-existent. It was just, you know, it was the heyday, right? And then we had 100% trusted attribution. And I'm saying that jokingly. So why was ROAS so big? Right? We've been indoctrinated as marketers to be very focused on this metric. It seems to be the gold standard to how everybody is viewing performance. Raise of hands, in the last 2 weeks, have you heard your ad agency, your paid media team, or your founder talk about or complain about ROAS? I don't buy it. More. Okay. Back in 2016, 16% of your organic reach was seen by actual followers. By 2025, it's 1%. That's not even including what we're at right now. I guarantee you it's under 8%. Okay, this is part of the reason why ROAS was so high back then. It was kind of a fake ROAS. It was a mythical creature to have that, right? Anybody remember the days where you could post and you would just make sales? That was sick, right? Yeah. I remember, so Fawn Design, I came on in Fawn Design, and I remember they bring me on and they're like, hey, you got to figure out why we're not taking off. We grew 100% the last 3 years. Why aren't we growing 100% this year? In fact, why are we going to lose like 5%? So I was like, okay, what's the first thing I do? I jump into Google Analytics, and I'm watching their source medium traffic around organic social. And I'm going to make up a number right here, but the difference in the numbers is going to be roughly the same. Let's say they were bringing in from that medium about 300 grand a month. And I watched for a couple months, like towards the end of 2017, I'm starting to see that like go down and scale down. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on there. And then I remember April 2018 to May of 2018, it went from 175 grand to $20,000, like overnight. And this was Meta's Facebook Meaningful Interaction, which essentially introduced what, if you guys know, it's called like the pay-to-play model. Remember the pay-to-play model? Hey, no longer are we going to let you win when we're not winning, right? That was kind of Meta's methodology, right? So, and then we all know this great and dreadful day. Who started their business around 2021? Anyone? No? Whose business was impacted by iOS 14.5? Okay. 96% of users opt into saying no longer, you can't track me anymore. Average drop in reported ROAS is 37%, and really, combining to about a $10 billion loss in ad revenue across the Meta platform. Does anybody know people whose businesses went under because of this? I know a lot of businesses that just said, hey, like, we can't do this anymore. Like, this is crazy. Anybody else still feel like they're being impacted by this?
On this website out here, I know that.
You are. We're definitely still being impacted. So to get through this list, this first little part right here, we've been indoctrinated in this idea that if I spend $1, I have to make $1 back. And oftentimes what happens is a lot of you in here look younger than me. Us millennials, we have a blessing and a curse where we hold on to things. Harry Potter, skinny jeans. I'm still listening to Third Eye Blind's. Yeah, I was just listening to Blink 182. We're a very nostalgic people, right? And pastels, making sure my Instagram grid looks perfect, right? And then the people who have taught you Gen Z are also millennials so we're passing this outdated information on, right? And so instead of us understanding, what the profit is per customer or what contribution margin, anyone know what contribution margin is? It's a big topic. Contribution margin is, instead of us looking at revenue, we're looking at revenue minus cost of goods sold, minus shipping, minus my Shopify fees, discounts, returns, etc. Some people add ad spend into it, other people don't, but you got to calculate that at some point, right? What the trap has been so focused that if I spend $1 here, I need to make $1 there. And sometimes what happens is, by thinking of things that way, we're strangling ourselves by trying to save ourselves, okay? And I'll explain a little bit more on what I mean. So everyone has heard of TAM, right? You've heard total addressable market. You got your service addressable market. You got these things, right? So TAM represents, if I'm selling a women's handbag, anyone from 16 to any female from 16 to dead can buy that product. That's my TAM, right? Your service addressable market is people who are actually going to buy it. We are introducing. We talk in our agency a lot about a new kind of acronym. That's what agencies do. We make up acronyms called MOM, which is our Meta Optimized Market, which is a much smaller group of people that your ads will actually get served to. And why is that? Mainly and we can debate about this afterwards. Let's not do it right now. Meta is mainly a last click platform. It is built to find people who are ready to buy. And so the reason why your total serviceable market can shrink down to your mom is because at the end of the day, Meta wins when you win. So they're going to try to find people who are frequent buyers, are used to purchasing in platform. And so it makes it harder to build a full funnel strategy. Not saying that it can't be done, right? We work with some clients that have a 4 to 6 month purchase period, and we're finding success, but we're also relying heavily on other platforms to help build that top of the funnel for us. So, for example, a brand that has just said, I need a 4 ROAS in order to win, let's take AG1 versus Grunes. They're two big ones that we all know of, right? They're like a greens companies. Everyone's familiar with both of those brands, yes. If, let's say Grunes says, I need a 4 ROAS in order to win, their mom is much smaller. Their meta addressable market is much smaller because I can't remember which one I said. That's Grunes, right? AG1, if AG1 comes out and says, ours is 2, they are just naturally going to get more of the inventory from Meta. That's just how it works, okay? And so understanding this idea of how ROAS can either help you or hurt you is extremely critical, because right there alone, you've got AG1 who's going to beat him out 8 times out of 10 and be able to scale significantly. So what will end up happening with Grunes, right, at the 4X, they're going to hit a wall at like $1,000 a day. I know they're spending much more, right? This is an example, right? Because they have a smaller mom, fewer auctions won. They're trying to squeeze a lot more out of the same people. Frequencies are going to go up, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas AG1 is going to be able to scale past $5,000, $10,000 a day. They're going to win a lot more auctions that way, all right? So the mindset shift needs to be from, what was my ROAS today? Kill anything under 3. Change my entire campaign strategy. Has anyone heard these conversations happening? Yeah. I mean, literally, I had a client yesterday, like 3 of those things came from one of my clients yesterday, actually. Just, hey, turn it off, test this. And sometimes that is correct. I'm not saying that isn't true, okay? It's correct when you know your numbers, all right? 2, shifting to understand, especially in the subscription base, we need to understand, what does our 6-month, 12-month LTV look like, right? What is the actual CPA we can afford? What's our payback period? Is it month 1? Is it month 2? Is it month 4? If it's month 4, can we afford that? Do we have cash flow to be able to afford that? You can't start saying things like this until you know things like this. All right, so let's get into the math here. I'm going to oversimplify it a little bit. These are the 5 metrics we really, really like to look at when working with subscription-based businesses. Obviously, you need to understand your CAC. Now, this number can be a moving target based on the other 4 things, okay? AOV times margin, just think of that as your contribution margin, right? So you're taking the average order value of a customer. What are your cost of goods? What are your shipping fees? What are your Shopify fees, discounts, returns, etc. Okay? Variable costs. Retention curve. So the percent of people who are still active each month, or you can look at churn, however you want to look at it. We like to look at it from a retention curve perspective. There's something about churn. This is going to make you never want to work with me. There's something about churn that just doesn't totally always make sense. All right. I like retention curves. Lifetime value, 6, 12 months. Lifetime, however, but at a minimum 6 to 12 months, sometimes 3 months. And then what is that payback period? And what can you afford on the payback period, right? Okay. Oh, I'm happy. Can you guys see this okay? All right. I was worried that this wasn't going to show up great. So, okay. Let's look at an example. I can send this to you guys too, if you're interested. Okay. The example here is, we're looking at this. This is not all subscribers. This is doing the math of one subscriber, but basing the retention curve off of the cohort. Can I get just like some sort of, thank you. So month one, they order, okay, their revenue AOV, $55. Does this have a laser?
You might blow something up.
Yeah. Gotta invest in that, guys. Cost, think of that as your contribution margin, right? So your cost of goods sold, your returns, all that kind of stuff. So 25% in this example. By the way, this is a real life example from a client. That cost is awesome, I know. Which then gives us $41. 55 minus 14, we profited $41. We didn't because it cost us $95 to acquire that person. So we're negative $54 on this person. Anybody know what the ROAS is on that off the top of your head? 0.58. I used a calculator. 0.58. Who in here would be like, oh shit, we're in trouble? Whose founder would lose their mind? Crap. We're in big trouble, okay? All right, let's go to month 2. So we lose 28%. Wait a second. Yeah, 28. Will it also?
No, but we'll worry about
Here, I'll just put this in the old pocket here. Okay, so we lost 28% of our people. So once again, we're looking at this revenue per individual. So instead of us making $40 to $55 per customer, we're making only $40. 25% cost is $10. So we are profiting $30 on the second order. 30 plus 41 equals what? 71. We're profitable 71. Nope. And we still have to pay back our cost to acquire a customer. Now we are in the hole. Instead of us being in the hole $54 month 1, we are in the hole what? $24 month 1. Do the same math, and finally, we're profitable month 3 on a 0.58 ROAS, where we would have blown shit up, right? We'd have been like, we can't do this anymore. We're gonna lose. Okay, now, once again, you need to, I'm not saying that every brand can operate this because there's a cash flow thing. I realize you have to have the cash flow in order to do this correctly. Hence the reason why you need to understand your payback periods. Hence the reason why you should be working very, very closely with your finance team, but not letting them dictate everything because they want to become marketers and think that they're the best marketers because they read a blog or two. So this payback period for this brand is at 3 months. The beauty of, hopefully some of you guys, if you're not looking at it this way, the beauty is, hopefully you have a subscription pool right now that is bringing you X amount of revenue that you can rely on. And depending on what your payback period is, it may only take you a month to 3 months to really start growing and scaling. But I promise you, this is the math. We do it time and time again with people, and it works when you have it all mathed out correctly and when you're talking to the right people to understand what the cash flow is. Okay. Here are a few brands. Unfortunately, I would like to share names a little bit more, but on the agency side, because we're like dealing with full revenue and full spend, it becomes a little bit more challenging versus like a portion of it for me to be like, oh, Groons made this much more from this one thing, you know? This is not Groons, by the way. We don't do Groons marketing. This is an apparel box, okay? This brand is led by a personal brand founder. Got like 1 million followers on TikTok. Crazy engagement. 400,000 views minimum. They had a $7 CAC. Insane ROAS. And something happened. I don't know if it was an algorithm update or whatever, but something happened with these guys where his reach went from like averaging 400 to 500,000 views per post down to like 20,000 views. And these guys were just like, they were devastated because what happens, remember what I said at the very beginning? Our ROAS was like 5 to 10 because our organic reach was so good. It was a faux ROAS. They had a faux ROAS. It was from this guy. It wasn't actually from their ads, but their ad team was like, hell yeah, we're awesome, you know? So we just said, hey, look, let's break the math out for you and we'll show you what this looks like. Their CAC, we triple ad spend, by the way. CAC jumps up significantly. ROAS decreases significantly. Right? Their profit almost triples. That was in a 3-month time frame. Crazy. Okay. Same thing. This is a food and beverage brand based on the East Coast. Very somewhat similar situation in a faux with their faux CAC. They have a very perishable product, and it's a very mom and pop store. The numbers don't look it, but like how they operate, very mom and pop. I guarantee no one's. Well, maybe now you have, but they're East Coast, Northeast, and they were very regional. They were in 2 states, crushing it. When we ran their post-purchase surveys, it was like 60% of people, when you ask the question, how did you first hear about us? 60% of people said, oh, from a friend or family, which is awesome, but also right there tells you immediately that whatever your CAC is, it's fake. Whatever your CAC is, it's fake. I mean, when I say it's fake, it's fake from if I were to turn everything else off but just run ads, that's what I mean by that. It all works together, so it's real. So anyways, they wanted to expand nationally, and once they expanded nationally, their CAC just doubled, tripled, just started skyrocketing, because it was like when you go from Boston, Massachusetts to Las Vegas, Nevada, like those markets aren't speaking to each other, right? So no one had heard of. So that 50-60% referral rate gone. Now it's like 0% referral rate. So same very situation. CAC drops to $95 or ups to 95. ROAS 2.7. They don't quite get a triple profit within the next 3 to 4 months, but it's over double. All because what happens is what they're doing is they're understanding the retention curve or their churn, and you have a bucket, right? Has anyone heard this analogy where you got like a bucket of water, okay? And your bucket of water is your revenue, customers, whatever. And every day there's a hole that gets drilled into that bucket where that water starts to leak, right? We talked a lot about this. I know Parker talked about it. I know Matt talked about it. We talked a lot about churn. What is the number two reasons people churn? Price and too much product. Those are 2 holes, and sometimes they're massive holes and sometimes they're little holes. So as long as you are filling up more and that is slowly rising, you can really make the math work. Last one, this is my favorite, okay? Because this is an education company. The reason why I say this one's my favorite, the numbers aren't as good from a profit perspective, but these guys are making, like in revenue, not even profits, like $400,000 a year. Husband and wife, they had 2 full-time jobs, and they were just like wheeling and dealing this on the side. And what was really cool when they came to us is they were so naive that they didn't know. They didn't know that most people are looking at things and saying we have to have a minimum of a 3 ROAS or else we can't grow. They hadn't been indoctrinated in any of this kind of like, I don't know, what you call it, fake data that people just who here in their office has said we have to be at a 3 ROAS. I don't know why it's always 3. It always to me seems like it's 3. Okay. These guys didn't have any of that indoctrination. And so we just said, hey, let us build out a model. Let's just test it and see what happens. They're in the negative on the ROAS. They're losing money on their first 2 months. In fact, 3 months is their payback period. Okay. 88 to 228. This month, I actually just ran the math this morning because I just wanted to see what it is. They're 430 this month in profits. And that was within like an 18-month time. I mean, they started growing really big profit, but we've been working with these guys for like 18 months. So we got to get to the other one now here. This just shows those 3 brands up across the board. If you were to just look at ROAS, right, you'd be like, oh my gosh, we're down 64%, 60%, 65%. All of these brands were down 65+% in ROAS to be over 100% in profit change. And just so we're all on the same page, this is variable profits. This is not including OPEX, but every one of these was higher than their OPEX. So what do you do Monday morning, Friday morning, whatever? Number one, the first and foremost is you have to understand those 5 numbers that I gave you. Like you have to understand it more than anything, okay? Don't just get to know your CAC and your ROAS. Yes, those are good. And listen, I'm talking really bad about ROAS. I shouldn't, because we look at it still like it is. But ROAS is it's a lead metric. It's not a lag metric. Everyone thinks it's a lag metric. It's a lead metric. Okay. Stop worshiping ROAS. Model your payback. If you can survive, usually it's between a 1 to 3 months. If you can survive, meaning you have the cash flow, because you might run into things and say, we are losing as a business if we do this. But as long as you can withstand the pain for a couple of months, potentially, depending on what your payback period is, you will be able to scale aggressively. And don't fear the efficiency dip. Sometimes we will get on phones with clients and we'll say, let's outscale your inefficiency. And they're like, what the freak does that mean? And you're like, well, like, decreasing spend doesn't mean things get more efficient. Not necessarily. So those are the things you need to do. Prioritize number one. You guys are probably all super hungry. We can do questions right now. I would gladly do it. Or if you want to just get your food, like I'll just answer your questions. Like we can come talk to each other.
Question right now.
If you have something immediately,
I want to see a template of your map.
okay, I can get you that. Absolutely.
I'm curious, Trevor, you build a profitability curve. I don't have a lot of the media going into it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You've been off medicine, health band. How do I think about what meta traffic will look like? Because it's probably different, right? I'm kind of like that brand you talked about in Boston, where a lot of what's coming from somewhere that's not attributed correctly. How do you think about building that curve and saying, okay, I want to scale. I know this is profitable. Do you go in and scale small on Meta and say, this is what Meta looks like and distinguish it from the rest of your business?
Yeah, oftentimes. So a lot of times what we'll do is you'll just build new baselines and new norms based off the things you're not doing. So right now, like you said, we're not running Meta. Now, once we pick that back up, we need to understand and establish what the new norm. So right now, let's say CAC is $40 and your ROAS is whatever, and your profits are XYZ. When we introduce Meta, what you'll just do is you'll just take a small sample size based off of, if you're spending $1,000 a day, okay, cool. Let's maybe get Meta up to $350 a day. Let's build a sample size around that. We can build this profitability model into it. But you just establish baselines as you increase those spends based off of something you're not doing. That's what we would do. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Anything else? Like I said, I will talk more too. What's up?
I'm throwing an AI question at you.
Yes.
The sort of mal fraud bots that seem to be impacting companies on paid advertising. Are you guys seeing that in paid ads as a rising trend?
Yes. Yes.
Leveraging against it.
We have a CTO, luckily, on our team who's trying to build some stuff that stops it. It's really challenging to build against it. So we're having small bits of success doing it, but really what you just need to do is, I mean, there's an intro fix piece to it, which is how do we filter out the bot so that we're understanding the actual true numbers? Because in the immediacy, it's impacting things like conversion rate. So we're not understanding conversion rate trends. It's also impacting your pixel data too. And that's the part that hurts the worst. So we're trying to use AI to build stuff that's going to protect those things right now. Yeah, but there's not like there has not been a great solution to it. At least like when we talk to Shopify about it, like they're not